And for more on Brazil's struggles, we are joined by Thomaz Favaro, live from Sao Paulo. He's a senior Latin American analyst with Control Risk. welcome to the show. We've got a very serious situation there.
Thank you.
We've got a very serious situation in Brazil where we have talked about reforms. Some have been implemented, but it seems like nothing is gaining any traction. What is going on?
Yeah, well, I guess the political uncertainty is a key element in understanding Brazil's current economic situation. Basically, while the current government has, over the past 5 years, engaged in high levels of public spending in an attempt to revive economic growth, that has led to a huge burden for the Brazilian state and rising debt levels. Now, since the beginning of the year, the government has adopted a change in course and has now attempted to rein in public spending and rebalance public finances. But those attempts have often failed to pass through Congress, where the opposition has shown an incredible and remarkable strength in blocking and either blocking or watering down some of the key legislations being put forward by the Rousseffs administration in its attempt to rebalance public finances. I guess that's why we see political uncertainty being a key element in understanding this economic situation.
So give me something positive, because that doesn't sound very good at all. I mean, if they've been trying to get these reforms passed and Congress can't get along with the other folks, and nothing's going to get done, essentially, and we'll be stuck in having the same conversation again a year from now. Is there something positive that's happening in Brazil for investors that are watching that would say, look, I think now is a turning point, perhaps, in this malaise?
I think we should not underestimate the power of this change in strategy. The fact that the government is aware of the need to rebalance public finances, it is aware of the need to cut back public spending. I guess that it has its own merits, and it's an important driver for, let's say, a longer-term strategy that could lead to, a more real, sustainable growth rate. Now, the problem is, in between, we'll be caught in between a rock and a hard place, because on one hand, the government has to engage in public spending at the same time where tax revenues are falling, so it makes it even more difficult for them to finish the year in blue, so in actually spending less than it has earned. So that's why we see this economic situation still going on for quite some time, possibly a year and a half, before we start seeing a recovery in the economy in the medium to long term.
Speaking of rocks and hard places, the commodities world in Brazil has not been kind, and this is, of course, not within their control. But worldwide, we've seen a pretty significant drop in commodity prices. And what can Brazil really do on that front?
Yeah, I guess it's important to understand that over the past decade, Brazil has suffered a process of deindustrialization that has basically concentrated its economy on the commodities sector. And nowhere that has been more evident than in the export sector. Around 2/3 of Brazil's exports are commodities, are primary goods. So Brazil is definitely not well placed in the world economy in times of a slump in commodity prices. Having said that, it's important to highlight that Brazil does have some degree of diversification within that commodity space. So while Brazil is an important producer of key agriculture goods such as soy, corn, meat, it's also an important producer of iron ore and other minerals. It's an important producer of oil. It's an important producer of biofuel. And so when and if these commodity prices start to pick up again, Brazil will be better positioned to offset some losses in one area with gains in other areas.
Yeah.
But no doubt the country is definitely ill-placed to tackle the situation at this moment.
So you've got a bit of a a combination of issues here, right? I mean, we talked about commodities, that's a problem. The politics, that's another problem. They can't get along. And then you have the economy, which is not good as well. And you have to begin thinking that ultimately Rousseffs' job, people are going to start asking questions. I mean, at this point, is her job in jeopardy?
Yes, well, the opposition, as I mentioned, has been quite fierce in Congress, but it has also been fierce in the streets. President Rousseff's approval ratings are at 9%. That's a historic low. And she has also faced a series of large-scale rallies, that some of which were actively demanding for her impeachment. Now, the opposition to her is definitely fierce. It's important to highlight that she hasn't been personally implicated or formally implicated in the Petrobras corruption scandal. Nevertheless, she is under 2 separate investigations that could shorten her mandate in office. We, however, do believe that the opposition doesn't have the necessary 2/3 majority in Congress in order to enforce an impeachment process and actually end Rousseff's term before 2018. So we do believe she's likely, at the current circumstances, to survive and actually finish her term in office.
All right, Thomaz, thank you very much. Tough times for the first letter of the BRICS.